In the vast forest of world literature, there are countless classics, but few books have been able to impact the course of an era's history. Among them, the novel Uncle Tom's Cabin by American writer Harriet Beecher Stowe is the most profoundly influential masterpiece of the 19th century. It was a bestseller, translated into dozens of languages, and ignited a wave of abolitionism across America. The first time I read this book, I witnessed Uncle Tom's tumultuous and tragic life. I felt deeply pained by the trampled fate of people of color in the American South. I also clearly heard the voice exposing the dark crimes of slavery. But when I reread it for the second time, I understood another layer of meaning: the philosophy of life hidden beneath the political facade of this novel. This piece aims to share that profound philosophy, explored through the classic novel Uncle Tom's Cabin **. I hope it will give you much to ponder and help you glean lessons on the wisdom of survival in life, enabling you to live with true courage and happiness in your best state. Now, let us delve into today's insights. Superiority is like underwear. It shouldn't be flaunted. A truly strong person will never act superior, and a noble life doesn't need to be adorned with a sense of superiority. In life, some people can't help but rely on a sense of superiority to build an invisible hierarchy, believing it makes them more refined, more capable, or places them higher than others. Conversely, there are those who consistently earn genuine respect from everyone around them through their humility and an egalitarian spirit. Reading this novel, you will realize that all superiority does not come from appearance, knowledge, family background, wealth, status, achievements, or power. It only stems from ignorance and a lacking heart. The story begins in the 19th century, before the American Civil War. The American South was primarily ruled by white people, while people of color became cheap labor, mainly working on cotton plantations. The main character is Uncle Tom, a black man who had to survive in that harsh and dark environment. After many ups and downs, at a slave auction, Uncle Tom was sold to a plantation owner named Simon Legree, an utterly brutal man. Like all owners of black people, or those who profited from the slave trade, Simon regarded humans as nothing more than property, mere tools to generate profit. One cotton harvest day, to prevent the black slaves from being lazy, Simon appointed Sambo and Quimbo, also black men, as overseers for the remaining slaves. One might have thought that being of the same race and color, they would understand each other's plight. However, unexpectedly, Sambo and Quimbo, having gained a little power, developed a strong sense of superiority. They abused their privileges to flaunt this feeling of superiority. If anyone didn't pick enough cotton, they would immediately lash them mercilessly. If they disliked someone, they would torture them on the spot. Upon seeing a beautiful new black girl, they would force her to become their own, regardless of destroying her marital and family happiness. Sambo and Quimbo became so arrogant, acting as if they were the true rulers of the plantation, relentlessly oppressing all the other black people. A French writer, diplomat, and politician once said, "One cannot truly demonstrate their superiority by looking at others with hatred and contempt." In fact, as psychologist Alfred Adler, in his classic psychology book What Life Should Mean to You*, which studies the feelings of confidence and superiority that influence a person's entire life happiness, pointed out, a feeling of superiority is the longing for one's ideal self, an emotional experience gained after achieving that ideal self. Furthermore, a feeling of superiority only arises when a person experiences an inferiority complex, then strives with all their might to gain a sense of being superior to others. This process is solely to affirm one's existence in this world. In other words, a feeling of superiority originates from a lack, from inferiority, and everyone possesses it. Sambo and Quimbo, rising from slaves to overseers, developed a sense of superiority. Two students who rank first in class will also feel superior. Being rated an outstanding employee of the year will give you a sense of being above others. Having a beautiful partner will also create a feeling of superiority. Or, simply in life, you'll commonly see city dwellers often feel superior to those from rural areas. Highly educated people often feel superior to those with less education. People who earn a lot of money often feel more distinguished than those with lower incomes, or beautiful people often feel superior to those with ordinary appearances. In truth, having a sense of superiority is understandable when humans are born with physical bodies and live in a materialistic society. But the alarming thing here is that many people demonstrate their superiority by constantly trying at all costs to make others see it. Only when many people see it can that person experience their own self-worth. Or, in relationships, proving superiority can involve showing off, loving to compare with those around them, comparing houses, cars, wives, husbands, or children's academic achievements. In social interactions, it might be looking down on others. In the workplace, it could be cases of older employees bullying new ones or being condescending. In school, it could be bullying, isolating friends, or intense academic competition, and so on. There's also a way to express superiority by invoking morality and human kindness, demanding of longtime friends, "After all these years, you can't even help with something so simple." Or, "You're so rich, what's wrong with giving me a little money?" Some people even possess an innate confidence that's strangely strong despite being utterly ordinary, always able to look down on others with a half-closed eye. The truth is, a feeling of superiority is just like underwear. The more you flaunt it, the more others are repulsed. We need to understand that the less one has, the more one wants to show off. The more one lacks, the more one needs validation. The more insecure one is, the more one needs to prove their worth. In psychology, there's an effect called Dunning-Kruger, or the illusion of one's own competence. In reality, people often have a cognitive bias to overestimate their abilities beyond their actual skill level. This holds true for many people, including Sambo and Quimbo. In the eyes of the plantation owner, they were nothing more than pawns, mere tools to be exploited. Should a better choice for an overseer arise, these two would undoubtedly be discarded at any moment. Ultimately, all feelings of superiority are just a shallow psychology. Only those with a frivolous and superficial inner self believe that having traveled extensively, dined at many high-end restaurants, known powerful people, held high degrees, come from wealthy families, etc., makes their position higher than others. There's a very apt saying from Osho's works: "Arrogance is merely inferiority treading on its own head." The more one tries to prove themselves, the narrower their path in life becomes. Uncle Tom's second owner was Augustine. Unlike most other cruel plantation owners, Augustine did not discriminate against black people. But his wife, Mary, was the complete opposite. Mary came from a wealthy family, had a happy marriage, and had servants. She should have been the most comfortable person in the manor, yet she constantly sighed and complained that no one truly cared about her. All of this stemmed from her habit of valuing her own superiority by always putting others down to elevate herself. On one hand, she enjoyed the pleasures brought by the unjust system of slavery. On the other hand, she proclaimed herself the savior of black people, believing that without her supervision, the slaves would surely perish. After marriage, to ensure the best service, Mary resorted to every trick to separate her black maid from her family and force the maid to follow her. Mary's pleasure was making her maid stay awake all night, then complaining of headaches and demanding everyone's attention. One day, when the maid accidentally fell asleep and didn't notice Mary's headache in time, Mary flew into a rage, accusing the maid of selfishness, believing it was because she herself had been too lenient with black people that such a thing happened. When Augustine advised his wife to put herself in the maid's shoes and stop separating her from her family, Mary sneered contemptuously, saying, "A black person couldn't possibly have such rich emotions as I do." However, in the eyes of others, the truly selfish, insensitive, hypocritical person, incapable of caring for anyone but herself, was Mary. Over time, her husband saw through her and no longer wanted to seriously listen to his wife's complaints. As for the servants, they had grown so accustomed to Mary's unreasonable demands that they began to serve only perfunctorily. Thus, Mary became trapped by her internal sense of superiority and gradually lived like an isolated island in real life. In our daily lives, we also encounter many people similar to Mary. After living abroad for several years, many people return home speaking with an affected accent, interspersing English words into every Vietnamese sentence. Or, on social media, many fall into a virtual life, loving to show off, needing to flaunt anything they have. You will find that conversations with people who have a strong superiority complex always feature a lot of I and very little you. Thus, they will try to shift the center of the story back to themselves at any opportunity. Those who like to display their superiority exhibit a very clear state in social or intimate relationships. They deny everything about the other person, focus on others' flaws, often criticize and humiliate them, and are skilled at finding every suitable opportunity to showcase their own advantages. Crucially, they will try at all costs to hide their own shortcomings. But precisely because they don't see, or pretend not to see, their own flaws, they can never truly progress in life. People with a strong sense of superiority often lack empathy and cannot put themselves in others' shoes. In reality, superiority never satisfies them because they aren't pursuing true excellence. They merely want to prove themselves better than others. Therefore, their instinct is to praise themselves and believe that others cannot measure up. From this, self-conceit and arrogance become their habit. However, they don't realize that gilding themselves only dazzles others. It doesn't bring warmth or comfort to the other person. Only when you curb your own superiority complex and view people and life with an egalitarian heart can you earn genuine respect and sincere treatment from those around you. Only then will your path in life truly broaden and your existence become truly authentic. A person's greatest courage is to look down without arrogance and look up without shame. In Mary's view, only force could tame all the black people on the plantation. Augustine visited his brother's manor and saw him pursuing an escaped black man. This slave, who fiercely yearned for freedom, was named Scipio. He was tall and extremely strong. He single-handedly overpowered the overseers who were using force to subdue him, then fled. Augustine's brother was furious and sent men with a pack of hounds to confront Scipio. But Scipio resisted fiercely, and no one could get near him until he was shot and wounded. To prevent the mob from killing innocent Scipio, Augustine stepped forward to protect him and took Scipio as his own slave. Augustine bought Scipio from his brother, brought him to a room, prepared a comfortable bed, bandaged his wounds, and personally cared for him. When Scipio fully recovered, Augustine signed a certificate of freedom, allowing Scipio to go anywhere he wished. But surprisingly, Scipio, who had repeatedly tried to escape before, tore the certificate in half and said he did not want to leave Augustine. Even later, when his master contracted a serious infectious disease, Scipio, without a hint of fear, insisted on staying by Augustine's side, caring for him until his last breath. In reality, Augustine did not hold a higher position or possess more wealth than his brother, yet he inspired such profound loyalty from Scipio. This was because Augustine had abandoned any sense of superiority and treated those of lower status with an egalitarian heart. If, in a relationship, you're wondering how to know whether to pursue a deeper connection with someone, observe how they treat those less fortunate than themselves. Because worshiping the strong is human nature, but caring for and treating the weaker with equality is not something everyone can do. When a person travels 1,000 miles, reads 1,000 books, and possesses an egalitarian heart that unites them with the world around them, that person will become aware of their own insignificance and clearly realize that all achievements and glories are merely temporary. Only by lowering the desire to prove yourself can you accumulate true strength. As Anning said, when you look down on someone, you are very close to failure. When you respect someone, you are not far from success. A person's greatest achievement and ultimate courage will come when they stand in a position higher than others, yet still possess humility, and know how to restrain their sense of superiority. Uncle Tom's Cabin is not merely an anti-slavery novel, it's also a philosophy of survival that exposes human nature. In the book, when faced with his wife's criticism of the maid, Augustine said, "If we were in their position, we might not do as well as they do." Indeed, you might discover that often, you unconsciously display your superiority, essentially because you lack self-confidence and want to protect yourself. Therefore, every time you step out, you feel the need to don armor. That armor could be your academic degree, title, family background, wealth, and so on. A sense of superiority becomes your invisible shield. Or perhaps you unconsciously express superiority simply because you want others to recognize, admire, or praise you. Thus, you adorn yourself with all sorts of embellishments. Those ornaments could be material possessions, fame, achievements, or circumstances. But the more glitter you add, the more dazzling it becomes, making it impossible to see your true self. In the long run, even you won't know who your true self is anymore. How can someone who can't be sincere with themselves demand sincerity from others? So, whenever you notice a sense of superiority starting to rise, you can ask yourself, what has awakened this feeling of superiority in me? See if you're seeking praise and recognition from everyone. Observe if you often criticize, look down on, and only see others' flaws. Ask yourself if you want someone to completely obey your words. And don't think that the story in this book, condemning an unjust society against Black people, is something grand that has nothing to do with you personally. You will see that from Uncle Tom's Cabin To Kill a Mockingbird *, that injustice stems from the white people's sense of superiority. And even now, discrimination based on skin color, ethnicity, rich-poor, beautiful-ugly, fat-thin, whole-disabled, still persists in this very life. This is because each of us is either pursuing or possesses a certain sense of superiority. Once you treat others with an egalitarian heart, looking down without arrogance, looking up without inferiority, and not showing off in front of others, then you will see that all people are essentially the same, and all things are one with you. Within you, no sense of superiority will arise. You will not yearn to stand at the peak, nor will you look down on those at the foot of the mountain. Regardless of your circumstances, you will not be trapped in an unstable state, wandering between the two extremes of inferiority complex and superiority complex. This is truly the best state for a genuinely excellent and courageous person. Moreover, you need to know that only when you are balanced can the world be just, as American psychologist Daniel Goleman wrote in his book Emotional Intelligence. The degree to which you make others feel comfortable will determine the height you can reach. And the final message I want to convey to all of you today is this. I hope we can all let go of the feeling of superiority, shed that invisible armor and external ornaments made of self-importance, maintain an egalitarian heart, and treat others with the same sincerity with which you treat yourself. Thank you for listening.